Well, I'm very pleased to stand here and to present you our project Houtloods. Like Simone already said, my name is Joyce Verstijnen. And at the moment, I'm representing Bedo de Brouwer Architecten. We are situated in Holland, which is in the southern part of the Netherlands. And we already originated since 1937, so we have a very long tradition already. But I'm not here to talk about the older projects we've already did. I'm here to talk about the Houtloods. Here you see this building. It's the oldest building on the former site of the Dutch railroad company. And it was our task to give it a new function after years of vacancy. And in the end, we have transformed it to a workspace where ICT offices are situated. There's a restaurant, and there are also an information center for the whole industrial area where this building is situated. Here you see the interior. I will explain you later. First of all, there is a main theme where I want to talk about with you, which is this image. And why am I showing you this image is the main thing here is how can we deal with what is old and what is new. So why I'm showing you this is that we wanted to prevent what has happened here is in fresco in Spain, and we think that if you add too much things to something old, and if you want to make something old into something new, it can lose its story, and it can also lose the strength of the image. So this is actually what we wanted to prevent. Another challenge is the vacancy and the decay. What you see here is the building, how it looked like before we transformed it into this workspace. So you see this building covered all with brick. You don't really read the building how it used to look like. And then another challenge, the third one, is a program. Actually, the building would suit for the program you see above, but our client asked us to add much more program into it, although the building itself is very low, so it was a challenge to deal with this. So we have an old construction, so we have this old building. How do we cope with all these challenges? Well, it's actually quite simple in a way. We add a new climate to it, like we put a glass bell into this, detached from this historical skin. We add a new climate to this building. And therefore, we keep what is old, we keep it old, and what we add new, we add a new climate. And secondly, we add new function into this new climate, into this glass bell, so to say. And then by stacking the program in a clever way, we try to come up with the program which the client asked for. So I first want to tell you a bit more about the urban context, because it's very important for this design. Like I mentioned previously, the building is situated in Tilburg, which is in the southern part of the Netherlands. And if we zoom in onto the city, you see in gray, you see the old industrial area. Here, the Dutch railroad company had their workspace for the train station. It's near to the station, which is still situated there, and it's very near to the city center. So it's very centralized in Tilburg. But actually, for more than 150 years, the whole area has been closed off. So it's been kind of forbidden area of the city. And at this moment, they are opening up the borders, and they want to reconnect it to the inner city again. And with this transformation, this is actually the most big transformation development of this city in history. And as you can see over here, in the middle, here is the Houtloods situated, really in the heart of this urban development. I think also it's very important to show you this. This is a bird's eye view from the whole area. What you see here is a very complex network of train rails. And all these different buildings which are situated are like objects placed on this network. And here you see all these buildings. All these buildings, they are designed at that time because they had a specific function, so they are really rational objects. So every architecture is very different and speaks for itself what kind of function it used to have. And that is the same how the Houtloods is designed. You see here Here you see one of the older drawings. Oh, I'm sorry. One back. Here you see the old drawing of the building. You see that it's a very specific object. And it used to function as the lumber yard for the Dutch Railroad Company. So the wood was stored over here to naturally dry. And so it's, the object itself is because of this function. So there are a few characteristics. It has a linear typology. It has this arch construction because the arches were open to let the wind blow through the building. And it has a wooden roof structure. And those elements we thought were very important to also consider during creating a new design for it. Which brings me to the design. I mentioned previously, we have this old historical skin where we add a new climate into it. But first of all, we needed to consider, we want to make this rational object visible again. So we had to, the facade was, which used to be opened, we opened it up again to make this structural, this rational object readable again. So what you actually get is this construction over here. This is how the building looked like before we changed anything. So the first step is to open the front facade like it used to be. And we added some new openings on the back facade because on the other side you have a lot of nice trees and view on the church. The second skin is adding this new climate which I showed you with this glass bell. So we added a new glass facade detached from the historical structure. And then thirdly, we designed a furniture box, so to say, where all the facilities and all the users got their workspace. So if we put them all together, you have three different skins. So we are dealing with this historical skin, which you see over here, the old historical skin. Then we add a new facade. And then the third skin is this flexible box. So if other users want to, if the program changes through time, then this box can be rearranged. And this is actually, if you translate all these steps into the design, you get this section, which shows that this furniture box over here creates a first floor where, so you have workspace underneath the floor and workspace on top of it. So you get different types of atmosphere to create these workspaces. And this is in the section through the length. And we also, like I mentioned before, we have different users. So we divided the building into three divisions. It's an office for the ICT company. It's an information center and office for real estate agents. This information center is for the whole area, industrial area around it. And then there is this restaurant on the right. I will zoom in a bit so you get a bit more understanding how this works. And this is on the right. Here you see the floor plans, and what you see here very visible is that you have this historical skin, this new added climate, this glass facade, and then the third layer is this furniture box. And by these floor plans I want to show you a bit better what kind of workspace we have actually created, because it's a mix of different types of workspaces. First of all, we have the auditorium room where people can sit on the stairs over here, where they can have a lunch or where they can just work. And there are presentations to be held. Then on the ground floor, underneath the first floor, you have concentration workspace and space to gather. And like you see here, it's a more quiet environment. So you are a bit more isolated, so you have more concentration on your workspace. And then on the first floor, above over here, you have more open workspace. And like I already explained, it was a very difficult task to add a new, or to stack the program, because we were dealing with this roof construction. So what actually happens is that people are working between the wooden beams. So you have a physical division between the different spaces, but you still can interact with each other. And the funny thing is, while you are sitting and working behind your laptop, you only look at these wooden beams because they're on eye level, but when you stand up, you can have a little chat. And there on the ground floor, there is a spaced information center for the industrial area. There are some models placed there, so people from the restaurant can visit there, or other public. Then the restaurant is actually used for more informal workspaces. So if the people from the ICT office have clients, or they want to informally work somewhere, they can just have a sit inside of the restaurant. And the stairs are a very important one to stack this program, because like I mentioned, the roof construction would be an obstacle if you would go to the first floor. And as you can see here, the stairs are going first in one direction, then you can choose whether to go left or go to the right, and you won't bump into to this beam with your head. And this is how it looks on the outside. There's a small office place in the back. It's a closed-off space because it's on the back facade, but it has a very small, tiny window, so the director who is sitting there, he can look at his staff, seeing if they are doing their job right. So although we have all these different users, all these different workspaces as well, what was really important is that this building would also be experienced as being it as one object, as one building. So how do we do it? One very important thing, we created this linear route between the glass facade and the furniture box. As you can see here, we have made this corridor, which is the main traffic. You can enter the building from one side and walk all the way through the other side. This happens also actually on the first floor, but only in view. So because the furniture box is detached from its roof construction, it means that you can also watch from the front all the way to the back as well. So you experience the whole building. And then we have this arch construction because the glass facade is detached from this historical structure, so you still have a look on the old brickwork on the inside. Instead of putting their insulation, you still see the bricks. Most important is also we are dealing with old and we are dealing with new, but we still also want to create a unity in its color and its material palette. So we wanted to be very modest, and we only used wood and gray tones and black, as you can see here. And you get an interesting tension between the old wooden roof construction, as you see here, and the furniture box is in contrary very tightly and clean design. So you get a tension between the two different materials. And you see here an overview from the restaurant. But actually most important is not the design, but how it is used. And what I think is really interesting is that you can try to make a design which is experienced as one building, but in the end it also works like that because we have different functions. They are overlapping in program. So what happens is that all the users collaborated with the building process, but also now they are making use of their each facility. So in that case, they are exchanging their places as well. And what also happens now, and this is really nice to see, is that it's also kind of becoming a catalyst for the whole area. It's still a very quiet area, but there are small interventions now created. This is an old train unit placed over there, and now during summer it's going to be a cocktail bar. So are the small interventions which are going to develop and make this area more interesting. And as you see, it's, like I said, it's very, there's not a lot of activity yet. It's interesting to see that because of the overlapping program in the Houtloods, there is always light and there is always activity, and people are really, really going there quite a lot. And I think in the end that is also what is very important is that the scale of the urban scale, the scale of the building itself, but also the scale of the interior, we saw it as one design task. It was one vision to deal with. And that's why I think, although the building is quite small in this very big area, it has been a huge impact for the whole area as a catalyst. So what you see is actually, it shows the old industrial story, its history, but it also shows where this whole area is heading towards. So I want to thank you, and I'm curious about your reaction. Thank you.